You know, the design process was so fat that the doctor advised them to become lean.
Control.
Thank you. Please don't unsubscribe. So you probably know what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about the lean UX design process. So without further ado, let's just get started. I'll be dividing this video into various chapters which I think are important for you guys to learn about the lean UX process a little more. So to begin with, let's just look at the difference between the design thinking process and the lean UX process. The design thinking process, most of you guys already know about, is a linear process. Of course, we have tweaked it in such a way that it becomes an iterative process. You keep on moving from one step of the design process to the other so that you can iterate and improve your product. But what about small features or improvements made on a continuous basis? Companies realize that the design thinking process itself is not only very large, but oftentimes does not yield the benefit that it needs to for the amount of work that is put into it. So instead of that, UX designers realized that there is a different method used in software development called the agile software development method. An agile process is a faster method with quicker timelines to get a good result and to improve your product on a continuous basis. They converted agile method into something called lean UX design. A lean UX process is generally a 4 or 5 step process. Here there is more interaction between different teams, designers, developers, product managers, etc. And rather than this process being there to work on a new product, mainly there to continuously improve a product or to continuously bring new slew of features to an existing product. So where the design thinking process fails at improving a product on a faster, more regular basis, agile or this lean UX design process comes into play. It is also really cool to see that most large-scale companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, whichever is your dream organization, they are using this lean UX process somewhere down the line. Now I'm going to define lean UX to you guys and help you understand it on a deeper level. So to begin with, lean UX process is based on assumptions. So to begin with, a lean UX design process, or simply lean UX, is a cycle of going from creating a hypothesis or making assumptions to finding a valid solution, testing it, and implementing it. Now, these assumptions or hypotheses are the base of any lean UX process. Now, the lean UX design process starts by making assumptions. So if you're a team of designers and developers sitting together, you want to see what are the problems that users generally face. Here, you are not collecting any research material or having any sort of interviews with users or anything. You are just making clever and clear assumptions. These assumptions could be anything. An assumption could be a question asked like, how would the user want to add a condiment item to the list of his checkout? For example, he's ordering a burger. He wants ketchup with the burger. How would he add that ketchup? That's just an assumption that people want to add ketchup to their burgers. Generally, that's something that we've seen happening in the world. So we make an assumption around it and we say, okay, people want to add condiments to their burger. So now, based on that assumption, a question has been created, and then a clear problem statement can always be created that user wants to add condiments or side items to his main items that he's ordered. So for example, a burger and ketchup, fries and mustard, things like that. Now, based on these assumptions, a team will sit together, design team, developer, and often the product management team. People from these teams come together in a room, which is often called a workshop. In that workshop, we do a lot of card sorting activities where we put sticky notes of problem statements based on assumptions. Based on assumptions again, we come up with solutions. So whichever kind of solutions we can think of based on patterns, based on what we've seen happening with other apps or in our app itself, we put those solutions on the board and say, okay, this solution from this problem, this solution for this assumption. Based on assumptions, we're coming up with assumable solution. Now, these solutions have a 50-50% chance of either failing or resulting in some sort of success. Often during these meetings or workshops, we like to set certain goals. If we add this feature to our application will see a 20% increase in sales or a 20% increase in checkout from this point. At that point of time, we are assuming problems, just coming up with a basic solution. Based on that, we are assuming a certain result. Now, all these assumptions and hypotheses have been made. The next step in the lean UX process comes the MVP, minimal viable product, a feature or a product that goes out that can be tested a little bit with either real users or a set of users that you've selected. Now, based on that, if we get the results that we desired, our assumptions were correct, or as our assumptions are successful. If we don't get the results we desired, pull back those features. You're getting my point? Now, an MVP often be a small feature. So it could be just a simple button added to the website or the application. It could be small section added with not a lot of thought has gone into that. Just an added feature or an added improvement to an application. Instagram. Oftentimes we'll see a random new feature land up on Instagram. Hey, why did they make this change? Now, when we think of why did this change happen, maybe try that feature. We might find it good or comfortable, or we might find it useful also, but we might not find it useful. So we might not use that feature as often. Now, this is telling the design team, hey, Instagram, this feature isn't really working for us. So they'll pull back that feature, and maybe in a few weeks, you'll see that feature gone. So that was the lean UX process being done, and you could see the effects of that process. By the way, I'm Puneet Chawla Official on Instagram. Go follow me. There's a lot of cool content there as well. Now, creating the MVP and making the assumptions are quick processes. This happens within a week or two time, and the experimentation can take a week or two more, depending on what you really want the experimentation time to be. Whether you want it to be a fixed time, whether you want to keep it running for a longer period of time, it's all up to the team and the people working inside the company. But since this is a agile method for iterating, experiment generally happens within a week or two time. Now, once the experimentation has been done with the features or the improvements, the results come back. We see a lot of analytics happening. We see heat maps of people using that feature, how they're using that feature, whether they're finding it easy to use. All these assumptions that we had made earlier are now being supported by real graphs, information, and numbers. Quantitative data is generally at the forefront of these experiments. Now, once that data has been received, we can analyze whether a certain improvement or feature makes sense to the users or not. What is done after that? Well, this information is taken back. If the information is positive, we keep those features and make even further improvements on that. Again, with this entire cycle happening. And if it doesn't work out, we either ditch the feature or try to improve it once again to experiment on it again, depending on how important this feature or improvement is to the company. Once this is done, the cycle keeps on continuing, and that is why it looks like a circle. Now, what are some key points when it comes to the lean UX process? Number one, it is based on complete collaboration between different teams. So designer will collaborate with product manager. The designer will also collaborate with developers to make this MVP a real life feature or improvement inside the application. In the company, there will be complete transparency, bunch of meetings and workshops happening back and forth between these teams. And a lot of these people always in touch with each other. There will always be some form of WhatsApp group, some form of Microsoft Teams group or whatever being created for such teams. In fact, a lot of softwares are developed to really help these teams have this agile method or the lean UX method as well. Atlassian is a great example. You have a bunch of Atlassian software that helps us, keep in touch with each other, helps us analyze results, helps us analyze problem statements, etc. on a daily basis. The second keyword here is quick iteration. Rather than working on designs that might take a month or two, we're generally taking a week or two to really push out new features. Designers work not only faster, use easier methods to design. Things like using already existing patterns in the design world, picking up design system components and just incorporating that into a new feature. So the designer is not taking 100 years to design a new feature, he's just taking, say, a week or so. And the same with the developers. The developers need to develop faster. They need to push out results faster. Once there is a nice chain of events happening across the teams, we can have a faster, leaner, agile methodology of pushing out features, improvements to our application. The third important keyword here is good quality, faster, improved feedback. Once we push out an MVP to a set of users, once we get the results back from analytics, etc., we can see what the users really think about these changes. What a lot of companies do is that they directly ask the users for feedback on certain features or improvements. There might be small forms, pop-ups happening on screen asking for feedback, etc., on a certain feature that the people have just used. That way they can get a more qualitative data as well and not just quantitative data. Faster pushing out of features and improvements definitely means a happier set of businessmen. People who are sitting on top of the company, the executive positions, the board positions, they'll be happier because they know, say, a certain idea is being pushed out faster or a certain feature set is being pushed out faster, and that brings better results and faster results for companies as well. Since lean UX is leaner and not such a long process, it often is a cheaper process, especially in the long term. Since a lot of improvements are happening in a small amount of time, we can see better results and better feedback for the company as well. Now, how does one learn the lean UX process? Can we execute it on our own? Definitely. We can execute it in our own personal projects or smaller projects we are doing on a freelance basis. Of course, we don't have to convince anybody of the lean UX process. It shows great results upfront. So lean UX process, definitely something that a company following the agile methodology for software development or product management is already executing on a daily basis. So the lean UX process is often incorporated in such companies. In fact, if you go and work for a larger company, it could either be a multinational corporation or a local company which has a lot of users and has a lot of business in the country, you will see the lean UX process being executed often. And for a lot of designers who are discouraged by this long design thinking process, taking 1 or 2 months to design something, you'll be happy to know that lean UX process is sometimes more favorable than the design thinking process during the product life cycle. The design thinking process really helps create the product, but lean UX helps create the product alive, bring new features, bring new improvements to the product on a regular basis. In fact, I would suggest reading this really cool article that I found on the Envision blog. So I'll have a link in the description, of course. If you're thinking, what should we watch next? This is the video you should be watching next. If you haven't yet, make sure you click on my face here and say subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way, you never miss out on any of my useful videos, and then you can thank me later. I'll see you every Monday and Thursday, same time, same place. Until next time, keep doing lean work and clean work.